Dr. Yap, and welcome to another episode of Yap with Dr. Yap. I'm here with Mr. Phil Speed. Tell us a little bit
Hey,
about yourself, sir.
Dr. Yap. Yeah, so it's Phil Speed. I'm the managing director at ICOM Productions. Been in the learning and development field since the mid '90s. So it's been a while. So yeah, it's a pleasure to chat with you today.
What I guess the question is much more broad into what are the training technologies that you foresee would be kind of pervasive for the next, the runway of one until 2030, for example, or even 2025. What does that look like to you?
So I think that some of the technologies that are coming they're here, but in the learning context and certainly in the corporate space. And even in the academic space, we're doing a lot of work in the West with some colleges out there around using finally using virtual reality as a great training tool and kind of moving it to that the area of Bloom's taxonomy that we weren't really able to touch before in a digital way. So I think not that they're new, but they're new in the use cases inside the corporate learning space, using both virtual and augmented to kind of bring that psychomotor element to the training that's going on today. So taking it out of just the cognitive domain and whatnot, and actually bringing that touch and feel into it, and being able to bring in some of the real world elements into that mixed reality is going to be important.
Now, do you think the assessments and evaluation component of whatever we do in training will change because
Sort of
of this?
the assessment evaluation.
Mhm.
Sure. I mean, we're doing a program right now that's, somebody will physically hold a fire extinguisher in their hand, but they'll be in the virtual reality headgear. But they have that kind of that feel and motion, and some of the sensors that we've put on, say the fire extinguisher, can really assess, the right motion back and forth to put out a fire. We're doing healthcare workers, they're in a virtual reality session, they're putting a stethoscope on a patient in the virtual world, and they have to pause for a long enough time to be able to catch COPD, for example, in a patient. So those kinds of things can all be then tracked back. There's a lot of work we're doing to be able to get those realities into some of the standard learning management systems, because that data capture is something that those systems haven't traditionally had to deal with. So I think, being able to look at those physical things that somebody is doing takes assessment to the whole next level. It's not just answering a question verbally or in a text field or a drop down. It's actually the physical things that you're doing is able to be digitally captured from an assessment point of view. So I think for sure that that element's changing dramatically.
Now, let's go one step back. When it comes to ensuring that, we have a place in the decision-making kind of table, what strategies or wisdom, I guess, you can provide to emerging leaders so that they are able to actually have a spot in that decision-making table?
Yeah, I think emerging leaders in this space absolutely need to understand data better than they ever have before, because then they're going to be able to look at that baseline data to show the return on investment for learning. I know we've always said the biggest challenge was getting to that level 4 of evaluation and be able to show the return on learning, hitting that top level, which is, pushing a business forward, increasing profits, decreasing costs. What's that return? So I think at the beginning of that, the only way you can do that is by capturing that baseline knowledge. Coming in and bringing in a bunch of solutions and doing things differently is great, but if you don't know what needle's being pushed by doing those things, it's not really you're not gonna have the business case to get that seat at the table with the rest of the leadership team to be able to secure budget, to be able to secure resources. You're going to struggle with it. So you really need to come in at it from a data point of view and understand what the baseline is.
Right. Now, in our post-COVID world of hybrid work environments, for lack of a better term, uh, how do you foresee one managing your own, team of of learning professionals, but then two, our clients? So, what are they looking for moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's interesting because we've got a broad mix of clients from financial services to logistics and transportation. The latter is still obviously in the office, even though it's not an office. They might be in a truck or in a sortation facility. So I think the context is a little different depending on the industry that you're talking about. But the financial services is, as an example, being one that is in the work from home environment. I think the frequency with which we need to check in from a learning point of view, and I think those remediation elements that sometimes always should exist, but maybe only sometimes exist, they need to be there more often. And I think they need to be, micro is, it's been around for a while, creating micro learning, but I think it's ever more important now because a lot more of it's going to be done on, the different wiggling devices that are in people's pockets. Because and that 30, 60, 90 almost needs to evolve to every couple of weeks, those little check-ins, not big onerous, courses for people to take, but certainly from a knowledge check and a health check, a mental health check, I think is going to be super important because that's a big part of what learning does. It makes people feel comfortable to do their job and make them feel productive and important and part of the culture and part of everything the organization's doing. So I think by placing that importance on training and making it more frequent but easily consumable is going to be super important.
That's great.
But because of COVID, I think COVID has just kind of opened a lot of people's eyes to what us as learning professionals have been saying for a long time.
Right.
I don't want to take positive out of something so negative, but it is something that I think will help us going forward.
Okay, last question.
Yeah.
Putting your forecasting hat, what would 5 years from now look like in the world of training?
I think that 5 years from now, what and back to COVID again, I think it's vaulted us forward to where we should have been. But I think 5 years from now, I think it won't be as big a struggle for learning professionals to get a seat at that leadership table. Gone will be the days of having to convince people that training is not just a cost of doing business, it drives business value. We've been saying that as professionals for a long time, but I think now it's, the light bulb has gone on for virtually everybody that, we need to do this, we need to do it right, because things are going to change in our business, and we need to be able to make sure people are trained and understand and comfortable and confident. So I think, fast forward 5 years, I think learning professionals will by default get a seat at the table because that check mark will be in the box of this drives business value.
All right. Well, thank you so much for
You're welcome.
your time and all of the wonderful
My
wisdom
pleasure.
you've provided.
That's what I have, and I'm happy to give it.
There you go. Thanks, Phil.